Welcome for today's webinar, Configuring Scalable Integration Through Customer Data Hub with Amit Blumen, Director of Product, and Bal Lapidus, Senior Enterprise Solutions Architect at Totango. Turning it over to you guys.
Thanks, Lorena. And on my end, it's good evening, but I believe that on your end, it's some sort of good morning, right, across the board. So we are very happy to show you some of our integrations and customer data hub. And without further ado, let's begin. Cool. So I think you all know, right, because you made the effort to join us. So you all know that data is actually moves everything forward. And I think we see it, across the board. It moves cars now and not just integrations and machines and systems. So without it, I think we will not, do anything. No system can actually function, right? So this is why we at Totango invested a lot of effort in turning, our data integration into a very simple but robust flow. And this is our main goal, right? Create something which fetch the data, bring it in a secure manner, scalable, and it's super easy for the user to track, to understand what it did, and the system should just help him, just guide them through. And we call this idea or paradigm Totango works for you, because we are guiding you through the process, directing you to the right point, orient the users to the right point. And this is why I personally so excited about our integrations. And let's start. So as I just mentioned, Data Hub, our customer data hub, is an enterprise-grade scale and security. And we will touch base on those items in the next slide. You will see that there is top-notch security and scale. And I will tell you that we are processing hundreds of millions, even more than that, events, any event in an hourly basis. So it's a huge. We give our customer a very fast access to processing, right? So everyone can actually do it very fast, from the fact that you are connecting the data to Totango till the end with all the verification, validation, and security with them. It actually makes it very fast for customer to do that. And the statistic that we have is between 30 and 60% faster than everything else, right? So people are doing this integration and onboarding faster. And I'm sure that we are, as a customer success company, knows that this leads to success of customers, okay? This is super important. Another topic, self-guided, efficient, and intuitive user experience. I talked about that. We wanted to give our customer the best experience, make it very easy. So, you will be successful with those integrations. We give customer within the customer data hub, we give a very monitored way to do stuff. So if you are uploading something, you will get a warning saying you didn't do that and just pinpoint you to the right direction. You have a validation error in the file. You have validation error on the mapping. You will get a very guided experience, self-service guided experience, which will guide you through on one hand and will help you make it fast, make it better. And our customer actually report a reduction in their maintenance cost by 20 to 40%, which is a huge amount. It's tons of money. Okay, so before I go to the next slide, I want to just ask you some questions. So we want to know you better. So Lorena, can you just use poll number 2? Yeah, so wow, this is exciting. So most of you actually think that the most important capability is ease of use. Exciting. This is what we'll show you in a sec. Variety of connectors. This is the second one. And the other one are competing, which is scale and ability to customize, are both the same score. No one voted for security. Interesting. So this is interesting. Thank you for your information. Let's move forward. So this is what our customers are actually use customer data hub are saying. So they, as you see here, ease of use, right? The number one here, ease of use on top. We are helping customer reduce customer maintenance or data maintenance on their end. And I think you all know that data people, data teams, all people that are related to data are very busy, they're very expensive. So if Totango helps you reduce it, as for this customer, it's a lot of money. What else customers are saying? Customers are saying that that we are helping them by themselves analyze what happened, right? What is inaccurate, what is the problem, and deal with that, or just pinpoint them to the problem to solve. And as number two here mentioned, without relying on anyone else, without relying on data people or ops or something like that. And of course, ease of integration is very important to us, as we saw in the poll as well. Let's dive in, right? It's kind of technical, but I think that this is why we are here, right? So Totango has tons of connectors, okay? Built-in connectors, and this is what this first type is all about, right? Connect fast to any of the connectors, built-in one, whether they are, storing files, whether they're applications or something like that. These are the built-in integrations that are so powerful, and it should not answer all your needs. If it didn't answer any need, we have APIs. We have product integration API. We have server-to-server integration APIs that will help you fetch the data, again, in a very self-service and guided way. Another type of integration that we support, file-based. I think that 80% of companies are still using file integrations. We have a very robust way to do that. So we support it, of course. Virtual collection. This is our own invention. This is a read-only connection, very secure to your data, which is not stored in Totango. So if you just want to display information in order for people to see the customer full picture, this is the right integration for you. This is very secure, OAuth, self-service, and people just need to log on their credentials and get their portion of the data and to see, the entire picture of the customer using a read-only connection to your data. Query-based integration. This is rather new stuff that we added 6 months ago, and we are super excited about that. So you have the ability to query any piece of information, not just your data warehouse, not just your data store, but your applications. Any application that supports query-based, we can connect to and fetch data in a very good manner, because you define the query, you have tons of options and possibilities. So this is about the types. Security, yeah. For us, it's super important. And we are using OAuth to secure connection and authentication. So every connection to your system should go through OAuth, okay? I'm not gonna speak about OAuth, but I think it's a well familiar market standard, all familiar with. We are keeping or advising to use read-only users and a restricted access. So if you have some object that you just need to fetch data from there, create a read-only user with access to this specific object, to this specific field, and we can grab it. This is how secure we want to be. And whitelisting, okay? We are allowing only certain IPs to get to your data, okay? So no one can actually access that but the Totango servers. This is some example. So let's say that I have a CRM, here the orange one, and I want to create, or I am creating a bi-directional data sync to Totango. And Totango can work in 3 modes. It's either in integration, so fetching data from your source into Totango, or the other around, pushing data from Totango to your CRM in this example, or create a bi-directional thing that is very complicated, okay? It's very complicated to establish, and we are just doing that in, just turn a toggle and it's there. It's, like an iceberg, but it's a very complicated implementation. And again, it gives you the option to sync into Totango any piece of information. It can be changed in Totango. You can actually control that setting. But once it's changed to Totango, it can sync back to your source. So people can just work in Totango, and all the data pieces, all the moving parts are actually synced in a very accurate manner. We can connect to any object that you have. So in this CRM example that I have, I can connect to your accounts, leads, opportunity, contacts, any custom object, as you can see. And we also support hierarchy and multi-product and everything. All objects, all fields, even reference fields, this is all supported. Okay, let me talk a bit about our customer data hub ingredients. So on the left side, we have the connector. Connector is an object that is responsible for connecting to your source in a very secure way. So you should define the data source there, the authentication method, and this is his job. This is this object. And what it does, it uses, or we can reuse it for your entire integration. So think about the fact that you will create a connector to your CRM system, no matter what it is, right? It can be an SAP one, it can be a Salesforce one, an Oracle one, whatever. And then we are creating one connector for that. So the ops people that are in various places or various companies responsible for that, you need to talk with them only once. And then you can create dozens of integration on top of this connector. So we are heavily investing our effort in reusing those connectors because we understand that this is a very time consuming for you guys. So this is the connector object. The other object, which is the integration, includes 4 steps, as you can see. Mapping, you will tell us which information type do you want to fetch in. Is it a contact? Is it usage information? Is it opportunities? Is it accounts, customers, subscription? Just tell us what the information type is and map the source field to Totango attributes. It includes dimensions, so we are grouping the information into a dimension, which will help you data model that into Totango and fetch data easily from your system. So this is the mapping. Validation, crucial part for customer data hub. We are validating tons of things. We have hundreds of validations going on. It define or it validate your structure, your quality of the integration of the object, and validation of the mapping and so on. Scheduling, all options there. You can schedule that for a one-time upload. You can schedule that for any minute that you want. You can fetch data, every 10 minutes from your source, or you can do some monthly and stuff like that. So all the scheduling options are there, and you have a good monitoring for that. We have a good monitor. We can notify you. We are notifying you on any outcome like failure or success, or this integration started but not finished yet, or so on. So we have a very good monitoring mechanism, and Val will show us that in a sec. Before we are doing that, can we use or can we just ask you another question? Lorena, can you just launch poll number 1?
It has been launched. It is on everyone's screen.
Yeah, thanks. We can see that.
And it's exciting, Amit and Val, but we have some questions already in the Q&A. So people are excited.
Cool. So, okay, we are still having the Q&A session at the end, right?
Yes.
Okay.
All right. Here's the data.
Okay, so cool. So the data comes in. I can actually see that the most busy persona here on your end is operations. Operation guys, these are the ones that will lead or will do this connection and integration pieces, which is very interesting to know. Cool, let's move forward. Okay, so the simple steps, and Val will show us that live in next slide, a minute from now. But I wanted to make sure we all understand how simple it is, okay? So the first step in creating a successful integration is just find the right connector. It can be already defined, right? It can be already configured and you can reuse it, or just find it on the list and connect to that. So you can just find your data warehouse, or just find your CRM there and put the right inputs into that and it connect, or, which I prefer this option, someone already defined that, I can just reuse it, right? Super simple. Second step is choose integration type. Tell us if you want to upload usage information or subscription information of accounts, contacts information, opportunities, whatever. Just tell us which type of integration it is. It's very powerful. It actually derives and builds part of the data model into Totango. Map source information into Totango. This is as simple as it sounds. Just select field here and select the Totango attribute on the other end, and it's connect. And the last one, schedule it. Okay, say that you want it on Monday and Wednesday evening. That's it. Okay, and then click OK. You are there. This is how simple it is. And without further ado, Val, take us there.
I'll go ahead and share my screen and introduce you guys to the Redshift connector that was recently released. And without further ado, you should be able to see my screen now. I have here my Totango portfolio up, and as well as the AWS management console. I'll go ahead and go into the global settings and go into data management and then customer data hub. And in here is the where you would set up the connectors. So first thing that I'm going to do today is I'm going to set up a connector with the data warehouse Redshift. And then also I'll bring in accounts into Totango from one of my Redshift tables. So I will go ahead and click on data warehouses here. And I do have a few of my Redshift instances already connected here. The nice thing about Totango is I can have as many, if you have multiple instances of any types of warehouses or want to grant different permissions for different user types, you can absolutely do that and create multiple connections to the same database, connecting to it differently each time. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and connect to a Redshift connector. I'm going to name this connector as my Redshift Val's demo 2, because I think I already have one named 1. And I don't need to give this a description. Then for the username, I'll use the AWS user. You can use whatever you want. I'll quickly type in the password here. Then the database, again, that you can just find all the info in your Redshift cluster here. Okay, and then the schema, I'm going to use my public schema. And then the port is 54, the database and the port. Whoops, sorry. I got a little confused there. Host name is here. Database is demo. Port is 5439. Let's just confirm that. Yep, all good. So then test and add connection. And there you go. Now I've got my demo connected, and now I want to bring in accounts for the purpose of creating accounts into Tango. So I'm going to go ahead and create an integration, and I can bring in accounts, users, usage, and collections. And by the way, I have a webinar series where I describe these different connectors and how to use them. I encourage you to watch those. It's Get Your Data On with Val. And that's a self-plug, by the way. I'm sorry, Amit, for using your time to do this. But I'm going to go ahead and do a select star from my customers table. And I purposely have an error in my syntax here to show you how it will look like if you have an error in your syntax. Oh, oops, my customers table is actually called the customer table. Go ahead and load that preview. It gives you the first top 10 results, the first 10 results within your table. And as you can see here, I have the different values that I'm going to bring into Totango. And now I can choose what columns to bring in. So I want my customer key to be the account key in Totango, account ID in Totango. And then for the address field, I'm going to go ahead and name that, leave that API name the same. And that way in the future, whenever I bring an address from this table, it will always go to this API name. I can, at a later point, though, go into the data modeler and change this the display name of this attribute to be more friendly to my users. I'll leave city and customer key I already mapped, so I'm going to go ahead and remove that from the attributes mapping. And just a quick, I realize I just glossed over this. So what you see here is it's asking you to map the fields into Totango to, I'm sorry, in your table to Totango. And on the left-hand side is the column within your table. On the right-hand side is the Totango attribute. And then there's up here is the format, which I'll explain that in a moment. But there's also dimensions, which are a way to group your data together. And then there's the format, which is the data type that you're bringing in. You can choose from text, number, date, and currency. Now, what I wanted to explain here is this very first row item is the most important one. This is the account ID in Totango, and that's why it's you can't change the format or the Totango attribute on that one. So I have chosen customer key for account ID. I've chosen for address, we'll go to the same name attribute in Totango will be reflected, from Redshift will be, the Redshift table will be reflected in Totango. And then for these, I will choose the type of attribute that it is. For name, I have to, anytime you want to bring a name into Totango, you have to map it to the account _ name. And again, as I mentioned earlier, in the webinar series, this is something that I review how to do these mappings. And then nation, phone, I'll put where they're going, and then to the same name that they're going to. And then demo data, I'll add a text attribute. And actually what I want to do here is I'm going to show you guys a trick on how to add a job in the future. So let's say demo data right now does not contain the data that I want, and that's a column in my table that I'm working on. I'm going to go finish it later. So I don't want to map it right now because I don't want bad data to come into Totango. So I'm going to go ahead and remove that from this integration. I'm going to go ahead and validate this. This will make sure that the formats that I've chosen correctly respond to the data that's within the table. Then I'll scroll down here, and you'll never have to provide your email address, but I do because I logged in as a super user. So it will never ask you for this. So don't mind the man behind the curtain. And then within the next portion is the scheduling, where I can specify the frequency of how often this will go out and fetch the data. You can do hourly. Most of our customers do it daily. And then another important part here is the time that you're going to choose for this integration to execute. It is best practice to set this at 11 p.m. your time, your instance time zone. My instance, for example, is on Pacific time. And if you're not sure which time zone your instance is on, you should reach out to us, support@totango.com, and they'll be able to let you know that. The reason I mentioned 11 p.m. is because Totango has the concept of a 24-hour cycle, where in the past 24 hours, we will take all the data that's coming to Totango, aggregate it, and present it to you with metrics that we calculate for a 3-day trend, a 7-day trend, a 14-day trend, and things like that. So there has to be a concept of a 24-hour clock. Your 24-hour clock expires at midnight, your instance time zone, and that's why I suggest 11 p.m. so that you can get your data in before your 24-hour clock is stopped. Now, if you were to put it in at 1 a.m., that data would not get into the aggregated metrics until the next 24-hour cycle. So always important to put this in at 11 p.m., your instance time zone. So now I have the choice to sync immediately after the save is done and enable the integration scheduling. So let's say I actually don't want any of this data to go right now, but I want to save my mappings so that I can come back to it later and edit it. This is the way I'd do it. But I'm going to go ahead and enable integration schedule. I won't save immediately after syncing. That's okay. So I'm going to go ahead and save this. And now you can see that the job is here and ready to execute. And then the next scheduled time, it will execute. Now, let's say I finished manipulating that data that I wasn't ready yet, the demo data column in that table. And now I want to add it to this job. So I'm going to go ahead and edit this job. And this job will present to me the exact same elements. And now I can go down here and notice my mappings are retained as they were before. I can click the add button. And if you notice, demo data is highlighted in blue, which signifies that it has not yet been mapped, even though it's coming over via the query. So now I can map demo data and pick its format, choose its dimension, validate the data oops, excuse me. I need to name the attribute. I'll go ahead and push it to demo data and create a new attribute. If you see here, notice how it says new next to the attribute. The actual attribute name in Totango will be demo data. The new part is just signifying that this will be a new attribute created in Totango. I'll then choose the data format type, validate, and everything else is saved from my previous configuration, and go ahead and save and sync. And now this data will all come over into Totango, and you'll have accounts within Totango. Let me go ahead and go back, and I'll show you the accounts that came in as a result. Let me just, one moment. This is a demo environment, so I have many accounts in here. But let me find one that's tagged with demo data, because that's specifically this data set. And any value. And exactly 21 accounts have come over into Totango, which is what I was expecting to see as a result. Let me just click into one of these accounts, and then we can look at its information tab. I know this is all empty and not a lot of information is there, but I'm just trying to showcase the what we've brought in. So the address fields, the city, marketing segment is all now there. So that's it for my demo. Oh, actually, I apologize. There's one more thing that I wanted to show you. So let me go back to global settings and let me show you how to manage these jobs after the fact. So let's see, data warehouse and Redshift Valid demo 2. And so the first screen you see here when you get in here is you can see the one-time jobs. These are jobs that you've executed as a one-time operation. You didn't put a schedule on them and just said, load this data now. And then you also have the recurring jobs. And when you see the recurring jobs, you can do a few things with them, which are really interesting. Now, this is set to fire off on a daily basis. Every single night, it will fire off the job. And if you ever want to troubleshoot and find out why data is in a specific way in Totango, you can always click the 3 kebabs on the right-hand side here and go into the history of the job. Then within the history of the job, you can actually see, now this one only has one historical operation, but you can see every single job that's ever been done for this. And then you can also download the job by clicking on the download now button on the right-hand side here. You'll get every single job in this list will receive a status. For this one is a success, and the 3 possible values here are success, partial success, and failure. If you receive a partial success or a failure message, you can always click on the status itself, the success value, click on partial success here, and it will it will give you the reason for failure and give you remediation steps or notify you of why it failed. Also, you can edit the job as we did earlier. You can run now, which is run the job immediately. And then you can download the most recent job. You can duplicate it so that you can create multiple instances of the same job or copy over the configuration. You can disable the scheduling, so it just stops the daily. View the history we already reviewed, and the last 2 features I'll cover. Delete first, which is delete this job. Remember, deleting this job does not actually delete the data in Totango. That's a common question that we get. Deleting this job only deletes the physical job. And then the last feature is trigger API, which if you have, for example, a process that generates data within your system that is not reliable with when it will finish, you can always set up an API call from when that job finishes to then trigger Totango.
Thank you, Val. Let me go through the questions for you guys. So can an organization start with just Data Hub?
Yeah, so I'm trying to really understand what you meant here, but yeah, you can start with Data Hub, upload your data, and start using Totango. If you just want to use Data Hub for integration and use only our customer Data Hub as a as a platform, to shift data from one end to the other, this is something that we can do. We are Customer Data Hub.
Paul, so I'm allowing you to talk if you want to go ahead and ask your question if in case there's more to it.
Yeah, thanks for taking the question. So, so we are in the process of collecting over 100 pieces of customer lifecycle information. You know, where they are with where they are in a project, where they are in a SaaS environment, you know, utilization information, like hundreds of pieces of information. And I suspect that our IT organization is going to get overwhelmed because they'll likely have to integrate to, I don't know, 30 systems to try to pull all of that information into a central repository. While my organization may not be ready to dive full into a success application yet, and trust me, I'm trying, what I'd like to be able to do is bite off a little piece and say, hey, I can make the data collection and data, you know, pulling all that data into a central place easy. And that's why I'm saying, you know, can I tear off a piece of Totango and start?
So, you know, first of all, it's in our case, it's available. We have a community edition. You can start there. You can grab all your data. I would actually recommend not going, you know, wide with all the data, but bringing in a piece of data that is valuable, right? And then you can, in Totango, you can just go to the successful gallery, which give you all the blocks, all the flows of information of customer success, like renewal, escalation, and, you know, all the things that customer success people are doing, and just, you know, adopt one of them. Just, you know, grab one of those and you're already there. So you added a piece of your data and you, on your customer success people can just start working with that. But again, to your original question, yeah, you can start with the community, fetch all the data there, you know, prove to yourself or everyone else that you need that it's working. It's super easy, and go from there.
Okay, thank you.
Any more questions there?
Yeah, there's the Totango supports OAuth for Google. Totango does not support OAuth for Google for, we support OAuth for Google for virtual collections. We don't have, as Mimita mentioned earlier, same answer as before, but is there any plans to support Microsoft O360 or /O365?
Yeah, so I can take it. So we do support, or we want to support Microsoft O365 very soon. I believe that you're not mentioning Dynamics here, right? Maybe we can get some clarification on that. But Microsoft Dynamics is there, okay, which is part of 365 as I know. And we will expand it to MS SQL and other pieces of Microsoft, which are coming soon. So as far as I remember, MS SQL is in the coming quarter, and Dynamics is already there.
Next question is, can Totango connect to Postgres? I only saw MySQL and Redshift.
Yeah, Postgres is coming soon. This is part of our July version. So it will be there super soon.
Okay. The next one, benefits of using Redshift connector versus reoccurring file uploads.
Yeah, this is a good one. I would actually say that if your use case is simple, like you know, fetching data from a simple table, simple query, and just shift it to a file and upload it to Totango, it works. If you want something more complex, like complex queries, complex, you know, joins, group by functions, all those querying options, this is why we have Redshift. And again, I really or strongly believe in direct connections. I think that once you're pulling data from a connector or from a system like Redshift into a file and then push it into Totango, it works, you know, as long as you have more and more, you know, points on the way, it's less work, right? But this is a very standard way. If you want a complex connection, I do think that you need to use Redshift and all the complex queries there.
I think that if I could add on to your answer, Amit, I think as a database admin, when you're trying to do a CSV upload, one of the more difficult things to do is not the actual extract of the CSV. That's easy. Most tools come with an extraction to CSV component. The difficult part is now I have to not only create the CSV, but I also have to deliver that CSV. And that's really where the benefit of these type connectors comes from, with connectors like the Redshift connector, the MySQL connector, the Salesforce connector that we have. You don't have to set up the infrastructure to deliver the data to us. We've already built that out, and we will directly go into your database, perform the queries that you want. Even if it's a simple query, the time savings that you're going to gain from not having to set up the infrastructure to facilitate the transfer of the data once it's generated in a CSV from your network to a network that Totango can access is going to be tremendous for you.
Yeah, I think thinking moreover about that, Ashley, I think that the maintenance is much more easy. Let's say that you're adding stuff and you want to update the query, then you need your data people to do that or someone to do that, fetch it to the file, define it or something like that. If you are using a Redshift native connector, then you just need to type in and just, edit the query and that validate it and it works. So I think this is a huge benefit of maintaining this connection. Okay.
The next question, can Totango connect to Intercom and GitHub?
Yeah, so the answer is yes. We have a connector via virtual collection. We can connect to Intercom, we can connect to GitHub. We just did it for one of our customers. This integration do not store data into Totango, just please present it. So this is, I'm not sure if this is what you meant, but this is one of the connection that we already support. And definitely GitHub and Intercom are on the list as well. I don't have a specific date, but it will happen soon.
We have two more questions from Paul. And I think his question is, how are you different?
Yeah, so yeah, I can take it, although I already answered that briefly here. So Totango is different because we are building and we are owning this entire platform. We're not using anything or any other tool. We are fully responsible, and this is our own proprietary, which gives us a lot of power. It gives us the power to create some unique mechanisms like auto mapping. And I'm not sure if you saw that, but once Val defined these Redshift fields coming in, it was automatically mapped to Totango, not because this is not the first time that he is using that. This is the reason, or this is the auto mapper mechanism that actually pop up and tries to fetch and guess and understand which field mapped to who. And again, saves a lot of time for this integration. We introduced a very customizable notification, so you can get any notification. If you want to see this job, when it started, when it's ended, get failure notification, you can grab it in your email, you can see it in Slack, you can have your own webhook that will create a task to the right operation guide to help you with that and so on. And I think the last thing that Val actually showed here, I didn't mention it in the answer, in the written answer, but I'm not sure if you saw, but we can actually download the information as it was once you sync the data. So Val actually presented here a Redshift connection, right? And the data is changing, and this is true to Redshift, it's true to your CRM or any other system. And if you want to understand what happened, because us as data people, this is one of the things that we do not know. We don't know what happened before. We don't know what changed in most cases. And if we do, we need to grab logs. It's a lot of work. And here in Totango, I can sync data from Redshift or from my CRM and see the data, the file, just download the real file as it was 6 months ago, or as it was 30 days ago, because this is where I suspect there was some bug or something that caused issues. So this is how powerful this is. We are the owner of the entire customer data hub. This is why we can release connector on a weekly basis. This is why we are doing all those stuff. And we listen, okay? I'm not sure how other people or other systems are doing that, but we have a very strong community. And if you saw the answer here, someone asked about Stripe. And yeah, we got this request from the community, and this is why we said that you should just go there, vote, we listen, and it will be there very soon. So this is how strong and flexible is it.
Thank you guys
I
so
hope
much.
I answered that.
Yeah, no, this was really great. I appreciate your time. Thank you guys for joining us.